All right, everyone, welcome in to another edition of West Virginia Mountaineers Live right here at the Voice of College Football. We've done this now. You see that banner? 53 consecutive weeks. If I do the math right, 52 is a year. So we've been going at it a full year plus here at the Voice of College Football. So great to have all of you. Please leave your comments and questions as usual. You produce the show, so leave those comments and questions there in the live chat. We will get to them. We've got Gold and Blue Dude headed this way. We should have him jump on here in the next few minutes. And again, we invite those comments and questions. We appreciate you being here. Spring ball starting on March 21st. So we were just about 3 weeks away, and the spring game is set for April 22nd, of course, in Morgantown. We got a special guest tonight. We got Tommy Lopez on the line. We're going to bring in Tommy for a conversation about NIL. And Tommy is part of the Country Roads Trust NIL collective for West Virginia athletics. So, Tommy, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Happy anniversary. Congratulations.
Well, we appreciate that. And we've been kicking around here for about 11 years total. So we just got that West Virginia channel started here in about the last year and hope to get people over there. So folks, you know what the deal is. Subscribe to the West Virginia channel here at the Voice of College Football. But this is a really interesting discussion I believe we're about to have with Tommy too here. Tommy again with the NIL collective for West Virginia. So Tommy, before we get really deep into the NIL part of this, just talk about being a West Virginian, being a West Virginia fan, all of your history and background with the Mountaineers.
Well, and thank you for all that. And first, I want to correct you. I am not an employee of the Country Roads Trust. I'm a consultant who works through the Country Roads Trust in NIL. So thank you for that. I'm a West Virginia fan like everyone, born, bred, and raised in the hills of West Virginia. I'm a former Mountaineer football player as well, and so I have a great love for our state and our athletic teams. And so as a lifelong West Virginian who's been in the stadium from, I'd say my first job was age 12 when the new stadium opened. My cousins had the concession stand business contract. And so we were selling hot dogs and cold Coke at age 12 in the stadium. And so as a 51-year-old to see the way the stadium has changed, and as a former player and now as a businessman, working in the state, it's been a wonderful journey being a fan of Mountaineer football.
Well, Tommy, as soon as you mentioned you're a player, I apologize. I didn't know that you had that also in your background. Give us a little rundown and some highlights of your playing career and time with the Mountaineers.
Well, unfortunately, I was not able to contribute much on the field. I'm a graduate of Notre Dame High School in Clarksburg. And when I graduated from Notre Dame, I went to WVU. My freshman year, I was redshirted and didn't play. My most notable accomplishments were I broke the all-time freshman bench press record and the all-time bench press record my freshman year at WVU. But then I subsequently transferred to Marshall. So I got the best of both states. I just frankly wasn't good enough. The guys in front of me at WVU were better than I. We were just coming off playing for a national championship in '88. And so, my opportunity to play was, to go down the road to Marshall, and was part of that program for a couple of years and blew my knee out there and came back to WVU to continue my sports management degree under Coach Nealon, and stayed with the program kind of ever since then. So didn't have a lot of success on the field.
So, Tommy, you were in the recruiting class of 1989?
Correct. My freshman year at WVU was the first year post-Major Harris.
Okay, post-Major Harris, of course, a national championship game appearance in the Fiesta Bowl the previous season. And then you go to Marshall, you play football, you have an injury, come back to your first love, WVU, and have been involved ever since. Okay, that's awesome.
Yes, I've had the blessing of being involved in a lot of capacities. I'm one of the charter members of the WVU Varsity Club, which is the campus organization that's the home for all student athletes that are former of WVU. In addition, I've also served as the past president of the Don Nealon chapter of the College Football Hall of Fame here in West Virginia. And, I've been blessed to work formally and informally in a lot of different organizations that are business related and sport related. And so, it's given me a unique opportunity as we now transition into NIL, those opportunities and how they fit into the business community and those sorts of things.
So, Tommy, as you mentioned to me before we started to record, there are a lot of misnomers out there about NIL, and it's phenomenal to have somebody that knows and understands the inner workings of. This is not for across the entire landscape of college football, but we're taking a major college football program and we're getting some insight into it right here. And folks that follow us here at the Voice of College Football know that we've done the same at Florida State and some other schools as well. And Michigan on a regular basis. We've got a guy that shows up each and every week, Justin Rowe, that gives us insight into the NIL collective there at Michigan. So as it pertains to West Virginia, first and foremost, Tommy, NIL was of course, announced and approved in July of 2021. So as of July 1st, 2021, collegiate athletes could benefit from their name, image, and likenesses. We've got the Golden Blue Dude showing up here. I think we got a bit of feedback here, TBD.
Yeah, I'm here. There. Let me leave and come back. Hold on.
Okay. So, Tommy, in regards to the collective there for West Virginia, again, it was allowed and legalized and started and launched across the nation in regards to being under the guidelines in July of 21. At what point did West Virginia really get started and in terms of NIL?
Well, West Virginia got started in the terms of NIL when the lawsuit was filed that changed the legalization of the NCAA rules. And for those that don't know, that lawsuit was originally started by WVU football player Sean Austin. So from WVU's beginning of the origin of this greatest change in the economics of college sport, we have really been at the top level of it. And so once that decision was made in July of 2021, where that law change happened, WVU, like many places across the country, didn't have a model to follow. And so, through the next 6 months, through that football season, there were some formalized efforts, to try to understand how the process was going to operate and really look at what the best models were going to be to implement that were going to bring us success. And I believe in January of 2022, the formation of the Country Roads Trust was announced. And the Country Roads Trust is the organization in the state of West Virginia that kind of helps WVU student athletes mitigate name, image, and likeness opportunities, while in turn trying to work with charities and other organizations to help tie that partnership all together. And West Virginia University's collective, the Country Roads Trust, is a little unique in that it covers all varsity sporting programs, not just football. And so when you look at the NIL model across the country, many of these collectives and groups that you see are only football focused. We are one of the more progressive because we cover all athletic teams, Olympic teams, doesn't matter if you're a revenue team or not. Okay, we cover the whole universities. That's something that really kind of sets us apart. And along with certainly the founders of the Country Roads Trust, who would be Ken Kendrick, the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Oliver Luck, who is our former athletic director. And so, we have a franchise owner of a professional sports team, and Oliver, who's, one of the most ingenious minds in college sport, running our collective. It's not a bunch of restaurant owners and boosters. We have businessmen who understand the acumen of the economics of college sports. So, it's a unique thing for us here in our state because we really are ahead of the game in this space when you look at nationally what's going on.
So, Tommy, just to clarify, if a private business or private individual approaches Country Roads Trust, they can target a specific sport or a specific individual, correct?
Correct. They can target a specific sport, they can target a specific individual, or they can target a specific charity, or they can just make a general donation so that, it can be executed at the behalf of what benefits most. There's a variety of manners and mechanisms in which donations can be enacted, and particularly in the charity vein, which has been very popular.
So also, Tommy, for the West Virginia athlete, there we got GBD sounding
He
clear.
made
How
it
you
back
doing
to
tonight,
us. He
man?
made it in.
I did it twice, and I was still getting that fuzzy thing. I don't. Who knows? Who knows?
You're good.
I get
It's
that all
clear.
day sometimes, man. You know, it just doesn't matter. Sometimes you just get it, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just like the computer experts. What do they do most of the time? They hit reset. You know, they
Yeah.
unplug and plug back in, and they're experts. So that fixes
Well,
it like
technology
90% of
controls
the time.
us. We think we control technology, but it controls us.
It sure does. More and more every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So GBD, I'll let you chime in. Of course, I got. Of course, we got Tommy Lopez here. Everyone, Country Roads NIL Collective for West Virginia. He's a consultant, not employed by the NIL Collective. But so, Tommy, do you have a good feel for how a West Virginia athlete, or let's say a recruit, is explained the NIL and how it works? Do you know how that conversation goes and in terms of information given to the athlete?
Yes, and again, it depends upon what situation that the athlete is in. But just generally speaking, you have a auto dealer who wants a WVU athlete, to promote their auto dealership, and so the client reaches out, and you reach out to the student athlete, and there's a form that you have to fill out, that denotes what's going on, and everyone understands. Okay, this is the offer. This is the exchange of what you're going to do in return for that. And, the contract is put in, and, each contract has to go into the university system, and, that sort of thing. And so, there is very formalized processes in place. And for those athletes that are part of the Country Roads Trust, they certainly have further guidance and further explanation. And so, we have a very safe, contained model here in our state. It's not that way every place else, as we've all seen in the media. There's some real cowboy stuff going on, but certainly, in relationship to those who are doing business here, there is a very formalized protocol that everyone goes through.
How is that presented to a recruit?
Well, in the vein of presenting to recruits is not something that I can speak to, but I think generally speaking, as a player is being recruited, they have offers of scholarship, an offer of endorsement from a community, okay, from a university. And, those offers are presented no different than anything else. And as we've seen in the recruiting arena, those offers, depending upon if someone's in the portal or if you're talking about a high school recruit, all those things vary. And state by state, law varies even as to the age in which you can recruit. Some scenarios we are able to go to different states with high school children, even high school players. And so, it's a very convoluted process as you get more into the recruiting side of it versus the existing athletes, that are already within the university system.
Yeah, I know this NIL thing is relatively new. If you can speak on it, compared to whenever the NIL was introduced, how is West Virginia in a much better situation than, say, whenever this whole thing started?
Absolutely, geez, that's a great question. And again, rolling back to the real importance of NIL to West Virginia, the bottom line is our economics in the state. The WVU athletic department has over a $300 million a year economic impact to the state of West Virginia and about an $80 million a year economic impact to Monongalia County. And so if we aren't able to pay our players equally and get better at it, like what you're talking about, we're not going to be able to compete, because if the other schools are paying more, it doesn't matter. We know that we're going to lose because we're not able to compete because we're not paying equally. So when we lose on the field because we're not paying equally, then all the businesses in the state lose. The restaurant sales are down. The hotels are empty. The gas pumps aren't used. The flights aren't being flown on. So, it's a great economic impact. And so it was very important for us get good at this very, very quickly, because the old model was a salary cap model, essentially. Everyone got 85 scholarships in football. Everyone was equal. There was parity across the country. Now, because of the law change, salary cap is gone, so to say. So we have to be able to get better at NIL to compete, to just save our economic impact for our businesses. And so we really, really have grown so much. It's just amazing what we've done with the Country Roads Trust, because to go from a setting where this impacts our entire state and we didn't have one collective group running it and organizing it was very scary to me. Okay, that was my real reason for staying heavily involved, was because I want to win, and I want to make sure that all the businesses continue to do well. Our shows have viewership, all the things that we know spin off from that. And, you know, it was very scary for me as a lifelong West Virginian who understood early on what was going on, that we didn't have something in place like everyone else didn't either. So from where we are now with the Country Roads Trust and the programs that they have available, the businesses who are involved in supporting it, it is just an unbelievable, you know, we are literally at the top of the country, guys, with our collective,
Nice.
okay, with the structure that we have. So we are way, way, way ahead of the game from where we were, and we are literally leading the country with the structure that we have in place. So we should all feel really, really comfortable, you know, in that. And I like to tell people, trust the trust.
Yep.
There you go.
Exactly.
Well,
Now,
Tom, you know, go ahead, GBD.
I just wanted to ask him this real quick, because I know, I think it was Joe Manchin, Tommy Tuberville, and maybe another individual. They were working on some type of, I don't know if it was a national legislation or if it was at the state level, but they're trying to work out some better guidelines for the NIL. Do you know anything about that? And if so, do you think that would? Because I think West Virginia's in a spot. You know, we're competing against Alabama, Tech. I mean, those schools have more money than we do, right? So I think it would help if there were some guidelines. Do you know the situation on the proposed legislation?
There's been a lot of talks of a lot of different stuff. You know, generally speaking, you know, I am a proponent of more control, because there are places that things aren't quite as they should be, I think, which we all recognize. And, you know, we are rule followers here. So, you know, even in this new environment, you know, we are rule followers and sticklers for that. And, you know, I think that, yes, on one side of the coin, it does allow us to maintain some competitiveness to the end of the programs that may not be doing everything as they should be, where some limits could be put in place. But really, for us to be successful, we have to really show the differences non-monetarily that separate us from some of these larger schools and different people that allow us to be unique in our economic offerings. Like, let's use the city of Pittsburgh and our rival, Pittsburgh, for a moment. So they are our rival, and they're 45 minutes to an hour from Morgantown. But if the Pittsburgh University Panthers lose consistently, it doesn't hurt the economy of the city of Pittsburgh one tiny bit. Pittsburgh International Airport still has the same amount of flights. Their restaurants are all still full. But when you come an hour down the road to WVU, if our football team loses, we know the economic impact it has on the entire state. But conversely, for NIL, if you're a player, why would you want to go to Pittsburgh thinking that you can make NIL money when you're going to be competing against the Pirates, the Steelers, the Penguins? Okay, there's not that natural market for you to get that remuneration and get those deals. Whereas if you come to West Virginia, you're going to be the king or queen of the entire state. Okay, when our model is able to show our players who have been here for 4 years that have come through our program, they will be leaders of our state media, and they will make big NIL money, because when you compare us to the opportunities in all these larger market cities, college athletes aren't going to get deals where there's pro athlete deals. The market just doesn't dictate it. So we have to be in a position to use that as a recruiting tool, as opposed to maybe just the overall money that we can offer initially. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, and I never thought of the pro city angle. That's very interesting.
Well, that's what some of the models and stuff are showing, and it's been really interesting just still watching how all this is unfolding in different places around the country. And some places there's better analytics to go through because some states like Texas require, and back to your legislation question, Texas is a full disclosure state where every deal, every dollar amount has to go to the state, and so their numbers are easy to look at. When you look at some places like that, and say, okay, that's maybe a good thing to look at for hard, true data to start mirroring from. That's a source, because the real reality, guys, is there's a lot of misinformation and miscalculation of deals and a lot of false stuff getting fluffed around that really isn't getting done with making big numbers around it and hyping themselves. But the reality is a lot of those big deals really aren't happening.
So when you say, Tommy, that West Virginia is out in front and in a good place compared to a lot of competitors in the various Power Five conferences, let's say, you're not basing that on money brought in or revenue brought in. You're just basing that on having a better structure, foundation.
Correct. Thank you for correcting me in that. We have a fabulous structure in place that has actually done a top 20 job, okay, in raising money, okay, but we certainly need to raise a lot more money, okay. We have a structure in place, but we need to raise a tremendous amount of money to stay competitive and to grow our brand so that we can maintain our economic impact. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you for correcting me on that.
So, Tommy, how are you making that evaluation in regards to trying to compare West Virginia versus the other NIL collectives out there?
Well, when you look at different organizations, they're each spending differently. They each have different ways that they're doing their enactments, but you have to look at the larger target, and the larger target dollar for success. A number that's being thrown around for the cost of a recruiting class in 2025 is approximately $25 million. And that's coming from the Tennessee Collective Group, okay, and the Spear Group, I believe they're called. And, they are at the top of doing a lot of data and projection sort of stuff. And so, while anyone has goals that you're trying to reach, in this sector, but, all of us who are trying to work in it are simply trying to just create as much interest and education in it and, parlay that into the partnerships and businesses, because ultimately, what the exact number is going to be that it's going to take to be competitive, it's not sure, but it's going to be, $15 to $20 million a year at a minimum. And when you look at what some of the larger programs spent last year through those that report, I think probably Tennessee spent about $4.5 million last year just on player enactment deals. I believe Texas A&M spent about $4 million, something like that. And around $4 million seemed to be the average from data out of the whole SEC conference. Just kind of putting that into perspective. And certainly we are not to that place. We need to continue just having participation from the businesses and individuals alike. Whether you're a $10 a month sponsor to the Country Roads Trust subscription service, or a business who wants to do an enactment with a student athlete, we just really need to show more of it in West Virginia and look at some of the unique things that people are doing in other places. And, in talking about our competitors, and we'll talk about the Penn State Nittany Lions, baby. Can we talk about that for a minute? What do you guys know about the Nittany Lions? They're first up on the schedule. So instead of talking about their players, let's talk about their NIL. How would that be? Is that all right?
I think Penn State's set up pretty well. I think they're set up better than Pitt.
Well, Penn State has had some changes in their NIL configuration. And, it's an example right now. Their most recent deal, I believe 4 of their players just got Teslas from a local business. But, Penn State Collective was originally started out under a name called the Happy Valley Talent, I believe was the name of it. And it was formed by local chambers of commerces and business groups and municipal groups, cities, that sort of stuff. And it recently folded into a newer organization called, I can't even remember the exact name of it. They folded into a new group together, but the uniqueness of it is they use their government entities as participants in NIL. Okay, so the city governments, the county boards and bureaus, they all participate in supporting NIL, which really hasn't gone on here in West Virginia. And other places across the country, municipalities and city governments are supporting NIL because it's so important. Again, back to like the Monongalia County, they've got an $80 million a year economic impact from WVU sports. So, under that model, one would think that, well, then the cities inside of Mon County and, that sort of stuff, they would help participate in the NIL so that they can keep that economic impact. And so that's where Penn State's NIL is a little bit different than ours, but really we are ahead of them because they are just now getting to the point they are covering all 31 of their varsity sport programs. We've done that from inception. And so, they are kind of just starting to get to the place, where we are from that basis, but where they are ahead of the game in some funding sources is that their municipal governments support their collective in a very formalized structure. And so, I think that's something that we need to see throughout West Virginia more because of the importance to the entire state. I think that the Tourism Association, and the different government entities and agencies that, derive revenue from that economic impact need to help contribute to help everybody out. And so, I think that would be an area of improvement that we could do in this state, certainly.
I was definitely surprised to hear that we're doing better than Penn State. You can ask Mark. I'm a conference
And that's in
realignment type
structure.
of guy.
Okay? That's in structure.
Gotcha. You can ask Mark. I am a conference realignment type of guy. And whenever it was announced that Oklahoma and Texas are leaving, and then you got Houston, UCF, BYU, and Cincinnati coming in, as far as the NIL perspective and, trying to out-recruit the other teams in the Big 12, I actually think that helps West Virginia. I think West Virginia is actually one of the stronger brands, remaining now that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. And I think we can take advantage of that.
I agree with you. And again, that message comes out from how we're able to reach other people with our NIL message and with our message of the state as a whole. People still have the stereotype of us in many ways. And so that is a big barrier in recruiting, whether it's NIL or anything else. And so,
YouTube
channel, right. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're right. Exactly. And so, I think you're right on spot there, big guy. We have to kind of work towards putting those things all together. And, that's part of what this NIL allows people to do is we're now able to come together in the ways that we're talking now. We're able to, work with business people. We're able to work with the people that are in the entertainment business. We're able to work with the people who are doing all of our types of podcasts and broadcasts, and everyone can come together. And that's very powerful because you can't do that in a big city. Okay. But when you're an athlete and you say, wow, do I want to get lost in the shuffle of a big city university? Or do I want to come to West Virginia where it's beautiful and the people are nice? And if I do a good job here, I can really stay here for the rest of my life and the community will embrace me and I'll be able to get a real job. I may not go to the NFL or the NBA, but if I'm in West Virginia for 4 years and I do a good job and I'm a good member of the community, I'll have a job for life. And when, I think that they need to see that and understand that. And to your end, it really gives us an opportunity to recruit and retain that way because we also have to retain the people that we got. It's not only about recruiting, it's about retention. And so, but we have to still keep a delicate balance because at the end of the day, we can't put all of our money into NIL because we still have to pay for our institutional costs. That's kind of been a rub factor, across the country here. So, how do we tell people that we need to put money into NIL, but yet we still don't want our institutional donations to go down because it's important. We need to support the MAC and the other university groups because we have to pay for stadiums. We have to pay for all those scoreboards, all those hard things, coaches' salaries, all that sort of stuff. And so, we have a very unique economy here in West Virginia where we have to balance what it is that we're doing in NIL and how much that we're still continuing to make sure that we support our organizational, institutional costs. Okay, those hard things that we need through the MAC and through the WVU athletic department because they do have to work together because, we can have a beautiful stadium, but no players because we can't pay them. Or we can have a bunch of players that we pay, but gosh, we don't have enough money to pay the coaches in our stadium. Doesn't look good, and so they really work together. But, we're blessed in that sense now because back to being ahead of people, our new $55 million enhanced football stadium, that inside complex is just amazing. Okay, it's second to nobody in the country. And so, when you're able to partner that in our recruiting efforts with having the ability to do fair deals and offer equal pay, per se, to what our competitors are, hey, we're okay to show our differences. We're not going to win every time, but we show why we're different, and we can, we'll win the people that want to be with us, okay? Because the type of recruit that doesn't see value in coming to a place where everyone's going to love me and I'm going to be part of a community, and if I do a good job for 4 years, I can probably stay here and forever and have a job. If that isn't what triggers to that kid or that recruit, well, probably not for us anyway. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Going back to the stadium issue that you mentioned, I really liked the difference that I saw as far as the concourse goes. Before it was a bit cramped. Now it's so wide open, and the Wi-Fi is way better. You can charge your phone. The restrooms were expanded. It almost looked like, and this is speculation, all right? This is not inside info or anything like that, but it almost looked like West Virginia, as far as Mountaineer Field goes, could be setting themselves up for possible future expansion of the stadium. It's always been my belief that if we had a 70,000 seat stadium, I don't think we would pack it out every time, but we definitely would pack it out for the big games, and I think it would validate expanding. I don't think we need to go beyond 70,000, but I think West Virginia University deserves a 70,000 seat stadium, especially when we're successful.
Well, I tell you what, man, I agree with what you're saying and how beautiful the stadium is. And, I take special pride in that because I was literally born in the new stadium. Okay, from the time I was a little boy, I sat in the grass and worked in the concession stands, as we were talking about earlier. And, in those days when the games ended, we youngsters that were working in concession stands got to play on the field, and we ran in and out of the locker rooms and in the weight rooms. And, then, as a college player going there, and now as an adult, and to see the difference in our stadium, in our complex there, is just gives me cold chills. We have a healthcare facility and complex that is second to nothing in the country. When you look at our college field with the healthcare complex and the new children's hospital behind it, okay, there's no place in the country that has it. I believe Iowa has a children's hospital, in the back of their football structure. But for what we have in our new stadium, our new children's hospital, all of the growth that area has seen is just unbelievable. It's a wonderful gift, man. I smile to what you're saying. And I don't know about the plans to expand to 70,000 or not, but what we have there, from what it's come from, and to be there my whole life, walking it and just seeing what you're seeing, just what a blessing that we all have this state in our stadium, man. It's just a real testament to the football fans here.
Money well spent, for sure.
Amen to that, man. I'd still like to see a little bit more money spent on the Wi-Fi. I'm with you. It's a little bit better, but man, we still got to have a little bit more juice, man. We got to have a little bit more juice when we're there.
But I'll tell you, it is, I agree with you. It does need to be improved, but now, compared now to 5 years ago, you couldn't even make a call at Mountaineer Field 5 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, actually, the Black Diamond Trophy rivalry, I was able to live stream. We're talking not just a regular call, live stream on YouTube, singing Country Roads after we beat Virginia Tech. If that's not leaps and bounds, going in the right direction, I don't know what is. I was surprised because just a few short years before that, you couldn't even make a phone call.
Oh, I agree 100%. It is dramatically improved. And, it's just one of those things we enjoy the pleasures of home, but sometimes I kind of like when it goes out because I don't like being bothered during the game. I don't want my phone going off. I don't want to talk to anybody. You're there to watch the darn game.
Yes,
so
sir.
I kind of like it. That's just me being old school a little bit. I don't need to take a picture of everything,
No, me neither. I'm right with you. But I did want to live stream Country Roads afterwards because that's a beautiful scene. Love it.
Oh,
everybody
everybody
needs to experience that because what I've heard, West Virginia fans, we're going to be a bit biased towards that because, it's for West Virginia. But even, people that are fans of other teams, they come in there and whenever that happens, they're absolutely blown away. 60,000 people singing Country Roads, word for word. Everybody knows every single word. The notes, nobody's off key. It's perfect.
And wherever you go throughout the country, when it starts playing, there's always someone else from West Virginia that you can hear singing it. Okay, that's kind of our hummingbird call. Okay, so for who's who where, that's the thing that I love is going someplace in an arena, and the Country Roads plays, and you always know where West Virginia fans are because they're always we are every place. And when that song comes on, we identify.
Well, did they have an NFL exhibition game in Europe? I think it was Seattle and they played Country Roads. I think this was in Germany, and they were all singing it. I mean, it was loud, and I was like, "Wow!" I know that's a popular song, but that really blew me away.
On the history of Country Roads, because I really have looked into it a little bit, there are several different versions of it. There's a Hawaiian version. There's all these different dialects, so to say, of it.
Well, they say West
really
Virginia.
Unique to what you're saying. There's a bunch of different there's a bunch of different versions, man.
Really? I know one version. John Denver.
I'm with you.
He's right. There are
I
several
know.
versions. That overseas, I believe it was Germany. I'll have to Google it to make sure I'm correct, but I believe it was Germany, and it was the West Virginia version for sure. And it sent chills knowing that a foreign country was singing our song and they knew every stinking word.
It's amazing. And that's the power of why we need to keep ourselves in that media vein through winning as well, because that's another thing that hurts our state. When we lose, we don't get that national media exposure through sport that leads to just what you're saying. And so I couldn't agree with you more. It gives you cold chills, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When we beat Kansas State yesterday, oh, man. Even in the
That's what it's all about.
Yes, that was awesome.
Well, guys, man, I really appreciate you having me on to talk a little bit this evening. And, you guys are always great in what you do and love watching you and, appreciate all of your efforts and, look forward to maybe jumping back on you with another time down the road. Anything else you guys feel like you'd like to ask me before I jump out of here?
Well, real quick, we've got our buddy Joey. He's got a question, so we could send you off with this one, Tommy. He wants to know the average amount of NIL per player at West Virginia, how that compares to other schools in the recruiting footprint like Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Maryland, Pitt, etc.
Well, there isn't hard data available like that in most places. Okay, like I mentioned before, Texas has some reporting laws where those exact figures are available. But generally speaking, there's some guys at WVU that are getting some good deals, and other places you don't know necessarily what's truth or fiction, so it's kind of hard to answer. But we do have some guys getting some good deals, and there are some good deals being had by players other places, and so but it's just hard to pinpoint it that way because there's a lot of mistruth being spoken and a lot of mistruth in what's being reported. So I won't tell a lie. How's that?
Works for me.
Good stuff, Tommy. Tommy, we appreciate you stopping by. Tommy Lopez, consultant to the Country Roads Trust NIL Collective there at WVU. Tommy, thank you so much for providing so much insight and energy here on our show tonight. Appreciate you.
I
Hey,
had fun, buddy.
appreciate you guys, man. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
All right. Good to get a outside perspective. Well, an outside perspective for us, but he's got the inside perspective, of course,
Yeah,
on
that's
the
right.
NIL.
I never had a bad feeling about West Virginia and the NIL, but after talking to him, I feel even better. And a lot of people like to talk about how Texas and Oklahoma are leaving and how it's going to hurt the Big 12. And yes, whenever it comes to making TV money, but you can counter that because the brands coming in are nowhere near as. I mean, if we're being honest, they're nowhere as strong as those. They're not gonna be bringing in anywhere the amount of the NIL as Texas and Oklahoma. So on that perspective, I do think West Virginia can be more competitive and actually beat those schools whenever it comes to the NIL. And if you think about it, that would actually make up for whatever you would make with Texas and Oklahoma staying in the Big 12. There's two ways to look at everything, and I think if Texas and Oklahoma were leaving, and we got, say, just for example, like a USC and a Washington, that something like that would hurt West Virginia tremendously because not only would that be two good brands, but it would be two good brands that we're not familiar with. So the fact that we got four decent brands, but not great brands, I actually think that's in favor of West Virginia as far as recruiting and using the NIL.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, obviously, here in the next few weeks. And the reason I bring up next few weeks is because I personally believe that a lot of this talk with the realignment and so forth could take months and months and months and months, if not years. However, the one thing that has to happen here sometime soon would be a Pac-12 media deal. So if they don't get a media rights deal, that's
meeting this week, and it's not looking good. The deal, and it's been confirmed by a lot of sources, Mark. Seriously, this is not one of my wacky theories. $22 million per team per year.
Yeah.
Not good. And it's supposedly 75% streaming.
Yeah, and so the whole streaming thing, I think you need to be into streaming, but it's still a cable driven.
Yes.
It's still a broadcast and a cable driven sport. And yeah, to make it difficult for people to find and difficult for people to get to, I don't have the exact answer there because some people could argue that streaming, the NFL went to streaming on Thursday night. I think you dip your toe in there, you do certain segments and pockets to maybe lure some people into that platform to say, hey, you need to be here eventually, but not just hitting people over the head out of nowhere. Boom, 75%. We're streaming. Get over there.
Well, Mark, think about this. How many inventors in the past didn't do so well because, yes, what they were coming up with was going to be great in the future, but for then, there was no traffic going to that particular invention, right? So they failed. They didn't make a lot of money. And then down the road, now that's a great invention. It's just not really doable back then. That's what we're looking at with Pac-12. I actually think streaming is the future of college football. It could, I'm not saying it will, but it could end up being 100% streaming. But that's the future if that happens. That's not now. You're not going to get traffic now if you do 75% streaming. If you want to do 25%, that's probably the most I would do. 25%, I'm okay with that. 75%, you're jumping the gun. You can't bring the future, now. I think it's a bad choice.
But then again, I look at my viewing habits on a Saturday afternoon, and since I'm trying to watch 3 and 4 games at the same time, I've become a streamer, and that's like not me. I'm not on the cutting edge by any stretch. I still have cable. I haven't cut the cord. I'm not even considering it just because I don't want to go through all the headaches of trying to figure out where I'm going to get games. And really, football is the only reason I've got cable. If there wasn't for live football, I'd be like, I can watch everything else I want to watch, whether it's news or entertainment. I can find it somewhere. But I just don't feel like going through the hassle of, even if it's going to save me $13 a month or 30 or whatever it is, to mess around with anything else, at least not right now.
But think about the avenue. You're right. I agree with you, but think about the avenue that they're using. All right. So the platform that we're hearing is Amazon. I really don't know that many people that, watch Amazon TV, and that's an extra subscription. So it's an extra subscription that you're going to have to subscribe to Amazon. And if you're a Pac-12 fan, you see how they're narrowing their avenue? Pac-12 fan. So is a Pac-12 fan going to subscribe to Amazon to get Pac-12 games? Cal versus, Oregon State. Not very many great games going to be on there because ESPN is still going to get the Pac-12 After Dark on Saturday. So it's the way they're doing it is what's hurting them. I like the streaming idea. I think it's the future. We all watch streaming way more, and it's going to continue to be that way. It's the way they approach the situation.
Yeah, and the other thing, and I don't know what the truth is to this, but what are the current negotiations? We're looking at ESPN/Fox, we're looking at Amazon, and we're looking at Apple, right?
Yeah, Apple's looking like it's more and more iffy.
Okay. Because if they went with some combination of those four and they had Apple and Amazon, then I would think you're really making it difficult on people, because if you want all the Pac-12 and you don't do any streaming right now, and suddenly you got to do two subscriptions to two
Yep.
different, that might be a little bit different.
Well, I'm wondering why, okay, if you want to do streaming, fine, that's your choice. Why haven't they considered YouTube TV?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think that if you're going to do streaming, if I were the Pac-12, I would strongly consider YouTube TV.
I don't even know where YouTube TV stands right now in terms of all the other sports.
Right.
Do you know what you can get on YouTube TV?
I think more people, like, I know a lot of people that are subscribed to YouTube TV because they just didn't like cable. It's different reasons, but I know way more, whatever reason it may be, I just know way more people that are subscribed to YouTube TV. And I'll tell you what, my cable bill is getting so high, I'm probably going to do it myself.
Well, that's a great point, because I'm not. I know I'm talking a certain way, like I just throw away money, but that's not the case. Certainly, I wouldn't be economical and do that sort of thing. So
Me and
I've
Mark
looked
aren't
into,
millionaires. We're not millionaires.
not
folks.
quite, not
Sorry.
yet, not yet. I make this comment from time to time, GBD. Of course, we got the Amazon link. You know what I read the other day, and I completely believe it, that Amazon is worth 1.7. And we're used to, like, trying to adjust our eyes to billions, like, wow, billions, trillion. It's worth $1.7 trillion. So when I try to get people to use my Amazon link, I say, we here at the Voice of College Football, our outfit's only worth 1.3 trillion. So we're trying to even it out. So, send us a little bit of money.
Right.
We're only worth 1.3 trillion.
There you go.
But you're right. I'm not saying that I'm throwing away money at cable. It's just I've looked into Hulu, and I've looked into what else is out there, and it's been out there. I've done the various things, and I just always run into something where I'm like, you know what? It's just not worth it.
I actually like Hulu, and I know somebody that has YouTube TV, and I think I just want to make sure that I can get all the games that I want to watch. That's the only thing. So I'm doing my research, but
yeah,
that's the avenue that I'm looking at, YouTube TV.
So how much does that cost?
It's not very, I think it's like 25. It's not, I mean, compared to cable, I mean, it's, I mean, for cable, I'm paying like $90, man. It's crazy.
What am I paying right now? I must be paying something close to that, because with the, when I lived in Connecticut, my internet and cable was $193 a month.
Yeah, with internet, mine's around 140, 150.
Yeah, I'm at like 135 right now, 137, something like that. Yeah, John is telling us that YouTube TV is 75-ish a month.
75-ish. Well, I mean, that's,
I don't know.
if it gets me everything I want, that's still a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
But I thought it was 25-ish. Okay. 75. That does seem cheap for a YouTube platform. I've heard great reviews, but I thought it was cheaper than that for sure.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving. There's no question about that. And what really annoys me is, I've got the cable, And so most of the games are on ESPN or they're on one of the Fox, FS1, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I usually I put the TVs on the Fox games because ESPN, I'm able to open up and stream them on my laptop.
Right.
But they have some kind of crazy, I don't even understand it, because sometimes they'll kick me off certain games and say, you're using too many devices for too many games or whatever. And I'm like, I'm paying a freaking cable bill
You're
and I'm
like,
sending
yeah,
ESPN
and
all this money. And yeah, just because I want to watch 3 games at the same time, you're kicking me off. But sometimes I do it and they let it go, and sometimes they don't.
it doesn't make sense.
And so I click off and then I try again. And sometimes if I get like the right combination, it'll get through, and sometimes it won't. Yeah, it's insane that they're making that kind of money and they're not going to let somebody watch 3 games at the same time. Like, you don't want
I
me
mean,
to
isn't
watch.
that what you want people to do?
Yeah,
I
you don't
mean,
want me to watch ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPNU at the same time.
trying to give you more viewership, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, so it
Never understand that.
is interesting.
Definitely.
Well, folks, any comments, questions out there on any of this? West Virginia's a ways away from hitting the field, so I don't think there's a whole lot there. March 21st, so we've got a few weeks away till we get some news out of spring
Yeah, I think my
football.
brother's going to the spring game, so maybe I can get some info on that.
Yes, that would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. And I want to remind everyone that we've got a West Virginia channel. So here's the deal. GBD's here. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's got a zillion things going on. He's pouring into his YouTube channel all the time. You guys see everything he's doing, but he still shows up here every, whatever it turns out to be. We were doing every Friday night. You got to stay flexible. We may show up on Sundays, Tuesday mornings, whatever it is. We're going to be here at some point during the week, but you got to support the West Virginia channel. So GBD's given us a lot of his time and effort and insight into everything. Joey's working hard to get this West Virginia channel built up that I'm checking out here at 859 subs.
It's not that far. People, it's only, what is it, 141?
Yes, we need 141,
Guys,
folks.
141,
We need to get
that's
to
it.
1,000.
Yes.
I'm going to put the link back in the...
And West Virginia channel doesn't mean that you actually have to be a West Virginia fan. Like, Mark has a zillion channels, and I'm subscribed to the Michigan channel, Iowa channel, Nebraska, all of them. You don't have to be a fan of that.
I appreciate it.
And, you know, just check a video out every once in a while. If you like it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too.
And if it makes you so disgusted to be subscribed to a West Virginia channel, you know what? Get us over 1,000. Get us well over 1,000, then unsubscribe. Go ahead. Just
it's a big milestone.
Yes. If you understand the YouTube situation, they want channels to push past 1,000 because it kind of proves that they're going to be established, that they've got a following, and then they start pushing those videos out into traffic. So get us to 1,000. Larry Pilgrim's here. Appreciate you being here, man. I live in Florida. I have Dish for 3 Utah games on Pac-12, and usually Utah is aired linear every game. Otherwise, it's tough to get the Pac-12 in Florida.
I bet Utah playing Florida helped too.
Yeah, Utah is aired linear. When you say linear, are you talking about just cable? Like, I know what the term is, linear, because I was in the TV industry for 30 years, but I'm just making sure that we're on the same plane as what Larry's talking about here, because I got to think. So are you considering...
Might be talking about Dish too.
Is he considering the Pac-12 to be linear TV? I don't know.
You might be talking about like your direct TVs and stuff like that as well.
Hank is not going to watch the USC channel. Hank, we appreciate you. You watch all the other channels. You're good to go. Yes.
As long as you're subscribed, that's what helps.
Absolutely. You're fine. You're fine. We don't need your help on the Oklahoma channel.
No, I don't watch the Oklahoma channel, but I'm subscribed.
You know what? At this point, GBD, I don't know. I don't know. You're more of a YouTube guru than I am. Does that hurt a channel if you've got subs that don't watch the channel? Then,
No, actually,
then you could
um,
go. If that's the
it
case, you can unsubscribe to those channels.
well, they have this new algorithm. I think it's I don't know how often it is, but if a person doesn't watch your channel like at least once a month or once every 3 months, something like they'll actually automatically unsubscribe them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a new algorithm they came out with. I think it's once every 3 months. So,
That's
you just
interesting.
watch a channel once every 3 months and you stay subscribed.
Huh. I did not know that. I'm
I
probably
think.
unsubscribing myself to all sorts of channels because I've been nice to people in the past, just been like, all right, I'll
Right.
sub, I'll sub, I'll sub. But
Yeah. And whenever you know the deal. Whenever you first start your channel, hey, I'll sub to your channel if you'll sub to my channel. That whole deal.
yes, yeah,
And then you're just like, man, that's a bad idea because then it just gets buried anyways.
yes.
Plus, YouTube frowns on that, so sub
Oh,
swapping is
do
a
they?
no, guys. Don't
Yeah,
do that.
that's something I'm sure I did at one point. Yeah,
Oh,
just
I
like
did
you're
in the
saying.
beginning for sure.
And
Yeah.
I never really did that on Twitter.
No, yeah. No, you're right.
I don't follow people back just to be nice.
Yeah,
I don't
it was
do that.
something like, guys, I got 53 subs. Can you give me one so I can get to 54, and I'll give you one so you
Yeah.
get to 67.
Yes. My thought is I'm running a business, and if you don't bring
Yeah.
value, I'm not following you.
Right there, you go.
I follow my friends and I follow media people that can help me in some aspect.
Oh, by the way, Mark, Golden Blue just hit 13,000 subscribers.
13,000 for
Yeah,
GBD. Everybody give an applause out there.
very happy. I'm gonna do it for him. The crazy thing is, and you already know the algorithm, you know how it works. With college football channels, you have your boom months, which is right before the season because people are just looking forward to college football so much. Then you have the season, which is good, but it kind of levels off a little bit. And then you have the off season, which takes the dip. February was better than let's see, October, November, December, and January. We had a
Oh, well,
great
that's a great
February.
sign. Yeah. That is an awesome sign right there. I cannot say the same.
But you still do well, Mark. You still
Yeah,
do well.
we're doing fine. I'm not complaining. I'm sure I'm gonna feed myself tomorrow. I'm
There you go. Yeah,
we're
you'll
okay.
get some McDonald's tomorrow, right? You'll be fine.
Larry's coming back here. Larry, we appreciate you. It would be cheaper for me if the Pac-12 goes to streaming and I can drop a dish, have Apple and Prime, Hulu, and Netflix.
For some people, it would be. Yeah, that makes sense.
Chris, I think you and I have talked about this in terms of Notre Dame just being on NBC. Think NBC. Everybody knows NBC.
Which,
I
by the
even
way, terrible presentation. They do a horrible job of presenting Notre Dame football.
Well, besides that, I'm just talking about kind of like what's in people's minds, what catches your attention. I get all locked in every Saturday. I got my whole lineup. I know what games I want to see. And then if those go bad, I'm going to go to another game if it's a
Back up.
blowout and all that. And I got to tell you, Notre Dame, I have nothing against Notre Dame. I will, despite getting into a complete rant of a argument back and forth with Notre Dame fans that were completely delusional today. But besides that, I have nothing against Notre Dame. They play a lot of big games that I would like to see, but I am constantly like, what's in my head on Saturday morning when I'm kind of getting ready for noon is, what's on ESPN, what's on Fox, FS1, like half the time I'll see Notre Dame on the bottom line about 2 hours into their game, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Notre Dame's playing USC. I completely forgot.
Yeah.
You're just off my radar. So
I think NBC has done a poor job of presenting because if you watch Notre Dame on NBC and you watch anybody on Big Noon Kickoff or Fox and anybody on ESPN, they don't build the game up. The announcers are okay at best, and it's just it's overall it doesn't feel like a college football presentation. It feels like an NFL football presentation. The way they do it, if if they really want to have success as far as, and I'm sure they'd still get viewership. It's Notre Dame, but if they wanted to boost those numbers from outside people that aren't Notre Dame fans, like they need to get a pregame together because theirs suck.
Well, that's all NBC has ever produced is NFL games. So I'm sure
Right.
their directors, their producers, they've done NFL for decades. I can just about guarantee that. So,
And they did great with the NBA on NBC as well. The
oh yeah,
pregames for those were amazing. They need to look at that example and apply it to Notre Dame football.
this is my favorite comment of the night. Mark, you are delusional. So
I am too. I am too.
Either Joe's joking or otherwise I want him to tell me why I'm delusional or call into the show. The next time we do a call-in show, Joe, I want you to explain how I'm delusional.
Well, everybody knows I'm delusional.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
That's just a generic statement. Like he didn't tell you why he thought you were delusional. You're just delusional. The Voice. Well, I like that show. I'll watch it.
No, that's my guy, Powcar. He's basically, he gives me that.
Oh, okay.
That's his standard.
The voice of college football.
He jumps on here and gives that to me every time. I
Oh.
appreciate that. SEC dog, good grief, Mr. Rogers just lets anyone call in and hang out here. Who is this clown? Oh boy.
Yeah, he's Georgia fans love clowning me. They love doing that.
SEC dog, show some respect.
Let the big dog eat likes to do it. Colby likes to do it. Of course, Uncle Lou. I mean, it's Georgia fans a lot.
Uncle Lou?
Oh yeah.
Well, he's not serious.
No.
Well, I don't even know if these guys are serious.
Yeah, imagine Uncle Lou trash talking, right?
This is Joe's problem right here. He says Notre Dame fans are delusional because we disagree with him. Joe must have seen my tweets this afternoon. I specified, Chris, there's a handful of Notre Dame fans. And then I specifically said the same thing could be said about any fan base. Any fan base. Ohio State, USC, West Virginia, any fan base have delusional fans. I just ran into a few on Twitter today that wanted to pick a fight and they were overmatched and they didn't know what they were talking about.
Ben, now you're delusional.
Yes, I knew some people would. I actually got a couple texts about this, like personally to my phone about this. Like, Mark, what's going on? You're ripping on these Notre Dame fans. Like I headed out for Notre Dame. No, there were like 3 delusional Notre Dame fans. And I'm just putting them in their place.
It's funny, man. Just whenever you do get a hold of that percentage of the fan base and they latch on, like they definitely kick it up a notch. Seems to me that's what's happened to me with the Georgia fan base. I got that little percentage that's like the annoyance and way out there percentage, and they've really latched on, man. Help my channel though. I don't know if they realize it or not, but they're definitely helping my channel. I love it.
Oh yeah,
bring it. Let's go.
Absolutely. As long as you watch and comment, hey.
Exactly.
Say whatever you will. And anyone who's calling me out for anything, the only thing I ask them to do is call the next call-in show. I want to talk to you directly. And nobody ever does that.
Easy to have courage when you're typing.
No, nobody ever does that. Nobody has ever taken me up on that. And I've called out people directly. That ends the conversation on Twitter as soon as I say, call my next call-in show. Then they disappear.
Exactly. They got that type courage.
Yes.
It's amazing that's almost they almost have more courage than what alcohol gives people, you know?
Yeah.
They got type goggles on. Oh man.
All right, man.
I will say this. I definitely did not know what I was getting myself into when I started a YouTube channel, but once you adjust and you figure out what's going on, it's actually really, really fun.
Oh yeah. You just have to have thick skin and not really pay attention to people. You have to pay attention to them.
Hold on.
Just let it go.
Give me 1 sec. What does that
Oh,
say?
look at this. What do we got here? Hat, sunglasses, notes, thick skin. That's it. You got
There
it.
you go.
You knew.
I even we branded it and we're merchandising it.
That is perfect. That is beautiful.
And no, me and Mark did not talk about that. That was not a planned plug.
Not at all. Just flowed together.
There you go. Love it.
Mike, you're being very kind. All right. Well, folks, I think we're good to go for tonight. Again, West Virginia channel, please subscribe. GBD's put in time here. Joey is busting his tail all the time to help us on West Virginia. Well, he's helping GBD and myself on everything, but
He helps a lot of people.
Specifically for the West Virginia channel, we want to get that. We've been crawling toward 1,000. We like to just nail it here, maybe during spring football.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it right there.
So here's what Mark is saying. If you took nothing else from this show, hit the subscribe button to the West Virginia Voice of College Football. That's it.
Placing it in the chat again here. We even made it easy on you. The link's right there in the chat.
At least get to 900 tonight. We can get, 41. We can do that, right?
Yeah, we got like 60 people on right now.
Even if you're watching a replay of this and you didn't catch us live, 900. Absolutely. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right, GBD. Appreciate you being here, man.
As usual, man. I love it.
Have a great week. And again, everyone, we don't know when we'll be back on for another West Virginia show, but subscribe, keep listening, get those notifications, and we'll be back soon. It'll be sometime.
And it is once a week.
Next week.
We don't know what day, but it's once a week.
We are always here. 53 consecutive weeks we've done it. So we're good to go. All right, man. Thanks for everything.
Absolutely, man. As always, man. A lot of fun.
Next shows here are Big Ten Lives at 6 Eastern tomorrow, preceded by the Oklahoma show. Actually, talk about shows dancing around. We've got our Oklahoma show coming up. That is coming up. There we go. There's the Oklahoma show coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. The Big Ten show's live at 6. That's a new show. Big Ten Live. Be here for that. Call me and we'll talk Big Ten football. And then we've got USC Live at 11 Eastern on Monday. So 3 big shows, 3 big live streams on Monday here at the Voice of College Football. Oklahoma, Big Ten Live premieres, and the USC show with Matt Zemek as well, right here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here. See you on Monday.